Good morning, Cynthia. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm lovely. Thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Excited to talk with you because I have been with many elders and I've sat with many medicine men in this area. And the thing is that they've always been worried about nobody is writing the stories. And all of a sudden, the universe has given us you. Because you're so authentic in this book. I'm so proud of you.
Well, I am profoundly honored. Thank you for your kindness.
To bring it together, where in your heart did you find the story? And did you feel like that it needs to be shared in a way of making a truer connection with the up-and-coming generations?
A lot of the inspiration for this story comes from our very old stories, the stories of ancient times and the deep ancestors. So this story, the spark of the story was a traditional story about an ancient ball game between the birds and the animals. And in that context, Bat was sort of pushed aside because Bat was small and no one thought that Bat could make a difference. Bat won a ball game for the animals by flying high and catching a ball in his teeth. And that for our little ones says to them what? That little ones can make a difference, that we each bring our own gifts to every situation, that when we look at each other, we should see what someone has to offer and not discount them simply because of difference. So I took the traditional story and I put it in a modern context. We call that modern folklore, where Indigenous or Native authors are revisiting our older teachings and passing them on to new generations in a way that is fully contemporary, that is centered on kids just like them who are going to school and shopping at Target and going to ball games and having all the same sort of contemporary life they are, but also have an understanding and appreciation of their cultures and traditions, that they honor their elders and their ancestors.
This is every bit what I was talking about in the beginning, is that you're bringing the past forward, and so many of the elders have said that it isn't happening, but you have started something here with HarperCollins that I hope in my heart will continue to be an open door.
Thank you. I'm honored. I will say it is an intertribal creative community that stands with me in pursuit of this goal. We have a rising generation of storytellers. If you look at the work of Navajo author Brian Young and his Heroes and Healer of the Water Monster books, those are also modern folklore, and they're a wonderful reflection of both modern, Dene, our Navajo life, Rose life, but they are also hearkening back to these timeless teachings that I genuinely believe are just as relevant today, if not more so. And the more Indigenous storytellers we have rising, the more tribal teachings will be naturally integrated into their work. It's not as though these are books that are not for our kids as well, right? We're not just trying to teach the outside world. We're trying to show our kids they belong in the world of books. And every kid in the storytelling circle, that these are compelling narratives. These are books that they're going to want to reach for and be excited about and become stronger and more enthusiastic readers.
It's books like this that inspires the generations to also open their eyes to all living things. Because before I sat down to have this conversation today, I was walking through this forest in South Charlotte, and right there in front of me was a 6-point buck just taking a nap. And it's little things like that you take a story like yours, and then you walk through the everyday world and you realize we're all connected as a living beast.
Yes, that is definitely a theme that permeates the story, and you get that in the connections between the human characters and the animal characters, but also as they travel across the continent. They are camping out in the woods. They're going to small towns and big cities. They are visiting fishing ponds. They're very much fully integrated into our larger world. And so often I think that we just are conscious of our immediate physical surroundings, and so often people are flying over or driving through without really getting into the world in a tactile and resonant kind of way. But kids are wonderful at that, right? They are really creatures of wonder. When you see a 5-year-old or a 15-year-old experiencing some aspect of nature for the first time, it is fresh, it is prescient, and it permeates more deeply, because anytime there's a first in our life, we feel it, and the book gives every child an opportunity to have this journey vicariously looking through the eyes of these young heroes.
The way that you give personality to Grampa Halfmoon's pickup, the way that it kind of gurgles around and how he doesn't freak out because it looks like there could be some trouble. We're going to wait till you get to your cousin's house. We'll take care of it there. But that relationship between Mel and Ray and Grampa Halfmoon, I love that because that to me is the soul of family.
It's a very intergenerational kind of story. You know, Grampa Halfmoon is not a character in the background. When we write our stories, we're not trying to get rid of all of the grown-ups because those intergenerational ties are so strong and so deep. And the importance of elders is, you know, paramount in terms of how the children are brought up. These are our wisdom keepers. They're also great sources of humor and knowledge. And Grandpa Halfmoon is eager to go on this adventure. He is not a stereotype. He is a three-dimensional person. He's a veteran. He's a little interested in reconnecting with his high school sweetheart. He has a life of his own, but the children are very much centered in his heart and in his day-to-day existence.
One of the things that you bring up is you bring up the connection between the two different nations, and that and just to my left over here is an authentic coup stick, and I wish people would understand the importance of that as well as dream catchers, and they're not what people think they are. Will you do that in your stories in the future to explain the spiritual tools so that people don't treat them like candy?
You know, my goal is to see the world through the eyes of young Native heroes.
Yes.
So their value system for items of cultural importance or sacred even importance is contextualized by the way that they have been raised, by their value system. And I think with kids especially, if I give them something that feels like this is part of the world and this is how we process it, they're going to sink more deeply into that space than anything else I can do. If I show them the reverence that Melanie and Ray have for Bat, or when they encounter, you know, misrepresentations of their cultures out in the world, that's going to permeate more deeply with kids and teens because they're going to feel what those young Native heroes are feeling. If they come across a cigar store Indian, that's going to come one way if they are not grounded in Muscogee, Ottawa, Seminole, Cherokee point of view than it is if they really are. And they're seeing that stereotype, but they're seeing it juxtaposed against these characters who they love and who are funny and who are very much people of today.
Yeah, this is going to create conversation and relationships with those who are not Indigenous, and the reason why is because they're going to read this book in their libraries or in their bookstores, and they're going to say, this is Mel, this is Ray. I know these guys. They go to my school. I want to ask questions.
Yes, the goal here very much for non-Native kids is for them to, you know, fully recognize and appreciate that we have a past, a present, and a future, but also that we're real human beings. We are not misty, legendary creatures of yore. We could be your neighbors. We could be your dentists.
Yeah.
You know, we are still here, and we always will be.
Wow. Where can people go to find out more about you, Cynthia, and your circle of authors? Because I really want to promote that.
My website is at CynthiaLeitich.com. They can also go to HarperCollins, Harper Kids, and look for information about Heart Drum, which is a Native-focused imprint of the publisher and really features on modern-day narratives authentically created with hope and humor and healing by Native people.
Wow. You got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Cynthia. The door is always going to be open for you.
Mado, my friend. Thank you.
Well, you have a brilliant day today, okay?
You too.